Hey, caregiver family. I am so thankful that you've chosen to tune into this episode of the My Favorite Girl Caregivers Corner podcast. If you're returning for another episode, welcome back. I'm excited to bring you another care empowering, inspiring, and lifting conversation. If this is your first time listening, a warm welcome to you as well, and thank you for listening. Before we dive into this episode, if you haven't done so already, y'all know every week I tell you, take a quick moment right now and subscribe from whichever platform you are listening on. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and then, of course, on YouTube. So, whichever one you're on, if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do that now. And hey, while you're at it, after you subscribe, go ahead and share it with a friend, family member, anybody that you know who are also on this caregiving journey, or somebody that you think that would just enjoy the podcast. Share it with them and invite them to subscribe. Also want to take a moment to also say thank you to those that are following me on social media, where I share my caregiving experiences with my favorite girl. That's my mom, and I affectionately call her my favorite girl. No, she's not a girl, she's a woman, but that's my girl every day of the week. I also call her my girl, my world, because she is my world. And so I'm thankful for that. And if you're following me on social media, thank you. If you're not following me, I invite you to go ahead and do that as well. You can follow on Facebook and Instagram at My Favorite Girl and Alzheimer's, on YouTube at My Favorite Girl Caregivers Corner Podcast, and on TikTok at My Favorite Girl and Alls. Go out there on TikTok. We have some video footage out there. Me and my lady, we just sit here and we chat it up, have some conversations. I call it Conversations with My Favorite Girl. And, you'll find all types of things out there. But you'll also find some motivation, some education, and some other inspiring things that we put out there just to help strengthen those that are caring on this journey. And so go check us out. Like, subscribe, follow all of it, share it. Make sure that you spread the word that My Favorite Girl Caregivers podcast is out there, and we are here to help strengthen and empower you as caregivers. Hey, listen, in today's episode, we're talking about the Big Bend Hospice Inaugural Partnership Caregiver Conference. It's a groundbreaking event designed to provide valuable resources and support for African American caregivers. Caregivers face unique challenges, including chronic stress and health disparities, which can have serious impacts on their well being. But Big Bend Hospice is stepping in with compassionate care and vital support, connecting caregivers with healthcare professionals and organizations that are committed to improving care and overall quality of life. In collaboration with the Acts 2 Project and the Alzheimer's Project, this conference, titled Caring with Heart, Support for Hospice and Alzheimer's Families, aims to address these challenges head on, offering insights, resources, and a supportive community for those who need it most. Whether you're a caregiver yourself or simply someone who wants to learn more about the work being done to support these unsung heroes, today's episode will leave you informed, empowered, and connected to essential tools for navigating the caregiver journey. I'm honored to have with me for this discussion Serena Collins and Asia Griffin, business development coordinators for Big Bend Hospice. Welcome to the podcast, ladies.
Thank you,
Yes,
Priscilla, for having us.
thank you.
And before we get into the conversation, I just want to go ahead and take a brief moment and just allow you all to introduce yourselves to the audience. And so, Serena, if you don't mind, if you would lead us, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so my name is Serena Collins, and I would say, a local girl. I'm from the Panhandle, Jackson County, Mariana area. I am a proud Florida A&M University alumni, and I have work history with Florida Department of Health and Florida Department of Corrections, and my experience there has led me into my transition now here at Big Bend Hospice, and I've been with Big Bend Hospice for almost a year now.
Okay. Asia.
Alrighty. My name is Asia Griffin. I'm a local as well from Tallahassee, Florida. A little bit about me. I graduated from FAMU with my PR degree in public relations. I interned at the Leon County Property Appraiser's Office. I worked with a digital marketing agency. Um, Expanding my skills, well, wanting to expand my skills has led me to Big Bend Hospice. And so that's why I'm here.
Uh, well, I see we have some rattlers in the house.
Yeah.
Yes,
Got
we
some
do.
rattlers in the house. Nothing all wrong with that. My baby's up there on the hill now, so I'm a rattler mom, and so I throw the snake out
Yes.
every now and again, every now and again. And yeah, I'm a FSU alum, but FAMU all day now, all day. That's where my money goes, and so that's where my passion goes as well. So, welcome, ladies,
That's right.
again to the podcast. And so, we're just going to jump into the conversation. We're talking about your Caring with Heart conference that's coming up. And so, if you could, Serena, if you would give us an overview of the conference and its importance, I'm sorry, for caregivers.
Alrighty. Well, thank you, Priscilla. So, yes, as we mentioned before, this is our inaugural conference. So, this is the first one that Big Ben has hosted, and we're super excited. The conference is going to be held at the Enrichment Center on Lake Bradford Road on Saturday, March the 22nd. And we are looking forward to a full day of learning and entertainment. We're going to start at registration at about 8:30. And we will be providing a continental breakfast because we understand that 8:30 on a Saturday morning is a little early, but we want the community to feel comfortable to come out as soon as they can, as early as they can. We're going to try to get started at 9, and we have refreshments, respite care, child care, and entertainment. We're going to be treated with entertainment from the Omega Lamplighters, and we're going to go until about 3. So we hope you guys will join us.
That sounds absolutely awesome. Now, I've heard of the respite care being offered. You all are adding a different component by also offering childcare. And
Yes.
so I'm going to just say this for those in the area that are listening. It sounds to me like they're giving you no excuse. You have no excuse. If you have children out, let me back up a little bit though. Is there an age limit for children?
No, there's not. Our daycare or childcare providers are, I want to say, experts. Our childcare providers are actually the FSU Seminole sitters. So they are very well versed in all age groups. If your child has any special needs or requirements, we do ask that you leave a comment or call us or email us so we can let them know ahead of time. But they are fully capable of working with all age groups.
All right. So that means that leaves no room for excuses. Whether you have a newborn or a preteen or somewhere in between, bring them. The whole purpose of it, from what it sounds like to me, again, respite care. It's offered a lot because we know that this is caregivers, and so caregivers are usually caring for someone, and so they usually with these type conferences, there's always respite care for the person that you're caring for. This time, you can't say, well, oh, I didn't have a babysitter because they got that all set up for you. And
Yes.
so, granted, and given who they have, there's background screenings that have already been done. It leaves you no room for excuse. And so I love this because that does give an opportunity for people who may not otherwise be able to come. Because of that, it gives that space and that room for you to be there. And so I think that is absolutely wonderful, wonderful idea. So let me ask this: what inspired this event? And I know that I read and I've gotten the information from you all as well that this particular conference, now it is open. Before I say this, it is open to everybody, but there is a specific focus on the African American community. So, why the specific focus on our African American community?
Well, I guess I'll start. To let them know that we're here, that to let the African American community to know that we're here to help and assist with those challenges. We know that, sometimes you hear a lot of people not, speaking up, a lot of caregivers not speaking up because, they're scared to be judged or, just scared to like ask for help and like, it's kind of thrown onto them. And so just to kind of show them that, people have experienced similar situations like that. And then we're just here to help and assist and try to tackle those barriers and those
Okay.
challenges.
Yeah. And being a caregiver, I'm going into year 10, right?
Mm,
And
Mhm.
I've encountered many people, many people, and so I have various ones that contact me on a regular basis. And so, and I've said this, when I'm speaking and doing different things, I say this all the time, and no offense to anybody listening, but sometimes, just because of how we've been brought up sometimes in African American homes, sometimes we tend to stick with that what goes on in the house stays in the house mentality.
mhm.
And I, for one, will be just excited when we fully let it go, because what goes on in the house can always stay in the house.
Absolutely.
Whether they say a closed mouth does not get fed. And
Right.
so, you can't wait until you are submerged underwater completely to then try and throw your hand up and say, I'm drowning. Because
Right.
at that point, you're pretty much dead. And
Right.
so, I'm here to also say, as a caregiver, one who's been in it a while, and one who, in the beginning, it took me diving in and really doing the research and, trying to find out who offers any type of services. But even now, and I tell people, don't be afraid to ask for help. That's what this conference is all about. That's what
Absolutely.
this type of help is about. You don't have to sit there and, wallow in it. You don't have to sit there and try and figure out what to do. They're providing the tools to say, hey, we have the tools, just come and get it. And so, okay, great. Um, so Big Bend Hospice, Acts 2, and the Alzheimer's Project, you all have come together for this event. How did these organizations collaborate? How did you all collaborate to create this space for the caregivers? And if you can share what each organization's role is in supporting the African American families.
Okay, so Big Bend Hospice has a long-standing partnership or friendship, if you will, with both the Alzheimer's Project and the X2 program. And they both bring some similar attributes to the conference, but they do have some differences that they'll explain more at the conference. But we know the X2 program is affiliated with and supported with FSU School of Medicine, so that in itself gives them a wealth of resources and knowledge that they're going to share with the community. And then the Alzheimer's Project, I think of X2 more as a referral source because they know where to send you to get what you need. And then the Alzheimer's Project, they just have a wealth of care and knowledge for families, including, their adult stay program and volunteers. And so they both bring different things to the table, but they're, both very helpful, great resources in the community.
And I can definitely vouch for that. I have actually taken advantage of the Alzheimer's Project services when my mom was in the earlier stages. They, not sure if they still have this program, but they had their Lifesaver program. And
Mm,
that was the program that they have for those that get into that stage of wandering, where they will, they use the ankle bracelet. I'm not sure if they still have it, but it is definitely very, very helpful, along with so many other resources that they too offer. There's also their volunteer program that they have. And then the Acts 2 project. Tamika, I know her very well. I've worked along with her, and so I think that all of you all, I will say, even with Big Bend Hospice, I take advantage of the Big Bend Hospice services through the transitions support. And so, from caregiver to those that are over these programs and have these programs, and I'm just speaking to those that are listening, that especially if you are in the Tallahassee area, Tallahassee, Gaston County, Jefferson County, all those other counties out there close to Tallahassee, if that's you, then I strongly, strongly, strongly suggest and encourage you to please attend this conference. I know all three of them, and they are legitimate. They are, some of the most compassionate, caring organizations that I haven't encountered. And so the information, I know, is going to be well worth you getting up at 8:30 in the morning. Come on, get up, eat your little breakfast. So when you get there, grab your cup of coffee on the way out the door. But I think that it will be well worth it to be there for the conference. And so um, thank you all for doing this. Let me say that too. Thank you all for being a great resource in our community, because it is very, 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 very much needed. I do also the advocacy side, and so you all know that session just started yesterday, and so we have some bills that are going up, and I think it's important too. This conference, again, open for everybody, but I think that that focus on African Americans is very vital, because a lot of times we don't know the signs. We don't. So what we kind of tend to think, the old term that most of us know is senile.
Right.
As the people get older, one of the things that we are quick to say, oh, they just senile. Well, what is senile, right? Nobody ever really explained that to us growing up.
Right.
So I grew up, with my grandmother, who had Alzheimer's, as well as some other family members, and that's all I heard. Oh, they're just senile. But nobody ever said what that means. I mean, being around it and seeing it, we just knew, okay, they weren't in their right mind, as we would say it. But to go even further than nobody went any further than to think, which is very common, and it's common with everybody. A lot of times they just think that it's just something that it has to happen. It's just a part of aging. When in reality, it's not a natural part of aging.
Right.
When you can come and get this information, then you can learn how, no, there's no cure, but there's some things that you can actually do that would help to slow it down.
Right.
So, can you all share some unique challenges that the African American caregivers face when caring for loved ones with Alzheimer's or those in hospice care, and how this conference will address those challenges?
Yeah. So I think, like earlier, just asking for help was one. Just kind of scared to go out there and get those resources for hospice and Alzheimer's. I think,
Yes.
Serena, you want to
Y-
elaborate?
Well, I was thinking too, we discussed that finances is a major issue sometimes in our community. We know that having a private care nurse or even an aide to come and sit with your person for 8 or 9 hours while you go to work is an astronomical cost. And a lot of people in the African American community can't afford it. So we might have some limitations in our education, and we just don't understand what these cognitive declines look like and what they mean. Like you said, a lot of times we just say our person was senile. I remember growing up and I didn't even understand that the word was Alzheimer's. I thought it was old timers because that's how we talk. And we thought the person might have old timers disease. We thought it was the old person's old timers disease. So just because of a lack of education, That's a barrier too, specifically for the African American community.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
oddly enough, there are still people who still call it old timers.
Old
I heard
timers.
somebody say that
Wow.
recently. They
Yes,
still say old timers,
old
and
timers.
it
Hmm.
is Alzheimer's. Okay.
Right.
And so you're absolutely correct. I mean, there was a young man who his mom actually recently passed away.
Mm.
One a guy from my church, and I had just really found out about his mom being diagnosed. I'm not going to say his name, so nobody knows, but I know the first time that he came up to me and he just said, "Hey, like, man, I need help." The behaviors is the one thing that he really was not, one, ready for, and two, aware of that could actually be something that could happen. And so his mom had become combative, and he wasn't used to that. He wasn't ready for it either, because I could tell that he was quite bothered by that. Well, I'm almost 10 years in. And so, there's some things that I've encountered that I'm like, matter of fact, my mom, I just told her the other day, I think you just get up every morning ready to fight, because she's in fight mode every morning. Every one of them, every now and again, she'll get up very humbly and peacefully, and I love you. But 9 times out of 10, that first trip to the restroom, oh yeah, sis is ready to go. But that takes patience. It takes understanding. A lot of times, I spend a lot of time telling people, you have to remember and focus on the fact that it's the disease. It's not the person.
Right.
Because if you focus on the person, you will get upset. And you have to understand that this is a brain disease. It's no different in terms of disease than any other disease. It's something that attacks a specific part of your body. It just happens to be the brain. And
Right.
so it's still your mother, it's still your father, it's still your loved one, whoever it may be. They're still the same person. They just have a disease that attacks their brain, and it causes them to go backwards, basically. And so, those type things are the things that we have to be aware of. I'm constantly saying, educate yourself. There's these type conferences that you can go to, and you can get the information. You can get the support that you need. But you have YouTube, you have Google, you have all of it. Educate yourself. Because if you educate yourself, and I'm always saying, go to YouTube. I guarantee you, if you type in, you'll find somebody out there who's also sharing their journey, that you can see some of these behaviors. So when they happen, you're not taken aback, at least not that far. Now, I'm not going to say it doesn't. There's
Mhm.
always that first time that they do something that you're like, ooh, because you're not used to it, right? I remember and can still visualize to this very moment, the very day and the moment when my mom did not remember me. And that's a punch in the gut like none other, right? And so
Yes.
you have to kind of brace yourself for those things, because unfortunately, on this particular journey, you're going to encounter some of those first time moments that, and you don't know when they're coming. That's the thing about it. You have no earthly idea when they're coming. They just kind of happen. And so, all of these challenges are what they are. That's the purpose behind this entire podcast. And it's not just for Alzheimer's, but for all caregivers. But that's the purpose, is to help people to understand that you're not alone on this journey, right? Like, you are not the only one. No matter how much life can seem to make you think you are on an island by yourself, you're not. And so all of these challenges, these are things that you all have in mind as you're planning this conference. And so I'm going to keep iterating it while we're on here. If you can get here, please get here, get the resources, get the information, especially if you're one of the ones who still calling it old timers. Yeah, I want you to come. I really want you to be there so you can really get the information. Now, outside of, okay, so prior to my mom, well, not prior to, but in addition to caring for my mom, I also cared for my grandmother for almost 5 years before she passed away. And so the only hospice, knowledge, to be honest, the only knowledge I had at that point, it was bare minimum. And so in my mind, just like what I find other people thinking as well, whenever you hear hospice, the immediate thought is end of life. Or you're going to die, you're going to leave here like really, really soon. So can we touch on just a little bit, because I know that's where you all are. You're with hospice, and you know, when it comes to that, you're talking about those in hospice care. Can we elaborate on the fact just a little bit that just because you're in hospice care doesn't necessarily mean you're about to leave here tomorrow or next week? Either one of you.
Well, one thing that we know about hospice care, a lot of people associate it with that 6 month mark. Oh, I only have 6 months or less. But one thing that makes Big Bend Hospice unique in our area is that we have our transitions program, and I was glad to know that you're utilizing it with your mom, because a lot of people get on the transitions program and the hospice program, and they quote unquote graduate or discharge from hospice. Just because you utilize hospice as a resource does not mean that you're not going to get better and come off the program altogether. But we do expect that once you sign up for hospice, you have exhausted all of your treatment options and you're going to let the disease take its natural course. But signing up with hospice is just to add an extra level of care, and especially with our transitions program, it adds an extra level of care to one, take some of the burden off of the family, but to also assist your other healthcare workers in providing another level of care to help you to be well, to help your family be well, to help the person age and pass away with dignity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love transitions. I will call Fabiola in a heartbeat. I do. I love it. I mean, my mom has been on it for a little bit. And matter of fact, she had her nurses visit yesterday.
Mm.
And, the lady comes over. I keep forgetting her name, but she comes very friendly. I get regular calls from hospice, Big Bend Hospice, the transitions, just simply saying, hey, we're just checking to see how's your mom. And they don't leave it there. They also
Mhm.
want to know, how are you doing as
Yes.
a
Right.
caregiver?
Right.
And I love
Yeah.
that about you all. You're about to say something, Asia?
Yeah, I was just gonna elaborate on Serena. That we're not just, on there for the patients, but we're there for families as well. Especially with our programs, spiritual counseling, our music therapy, animal therapy. We have even our camp will be gone for kids, so we just want the community to know that we're not just here for the patients, we're here for the family as well.
Yeah. And they mean it with their heart.
Yeah.
And you can feel
Yes,
it.
because that process, yeah, that can be a very challenging experience, and so why not help get the burden,
Right. Because,
released? So
after my grandmother passed away, I think they contacted me for about a good 6 months.
yeah.
And like after, just once a month, still saying, hey, we're just calling to check and see, do you need anything? And that means a whole lot. I had started, my grandmother was on full hospice for, it was actually a little over about a month. By the time I got to, liking them real good, God saw fit to take her on home. And so, she was 98 years old, ready to go. But the nurses, the CNAs, that palliative care is important as well. That palliative care, those are services that you need to know about. If you don't already know, you need to know about the palliative care, the supports, the grief counseling. You know, you all have grief groups as well, right?
Oh,
Yes,
yes.
ma'am.
Yeah. And so all of that is important. And if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are different age groups for that as well, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So if you're a child, an adult, you all have
Mm-hmm.
groups and all of that. I think that that's wonderful because, especially with Alzheimer's, you know, it is. Somebody said that it's the longest goodbye. And I would agree 1000%. It is you don't want your loved one to leave, you know, at least most people don't. But when they do, you know, I mean, it's constant. It's a constant death of something dying. You know, this is your loved one. They're still here, but they don't recognize you. What do
Yeah.
you do in those moments, right? Those
Right.
are the hard times because, you know, like my mom, she thinks I'm her mom, and so now I'm mama. We've reversed roles, and
Right.
you go with what they know. The only thing that matters to me and what's most important to me is at the end of every day, she recognizes love. She
Right.
knows that whoever she is, now she calls my name every day, all day long. But she doesn't know that I'm her daughter, I'm her mother. But at the end
Right.
of the day, whenever I show up, her everything is right in her world. And so for that, it takes away, you know, the weight and the, you know, everything else, the grief, because that's the thing about that long goodbye. You're grieving in the process of it. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
you grieve in the process of it. But when you have those moments, I'm
Hmm.
like, for me, everything in my world is right when I know that she knows me. She might not recognize me as her daughter, but she recognizes the love. And so, um, you know, what role does the community play in caregiving, and how can those that are non-caregivers or those outside of the healthcare field get involved in supporting the work of caregivers?
I think by first, just any resources that are out there that they know of, kind of sharing that. Like Serena mentioned earlier, that financial assistance with community organizations and different type of other resources that'll help caregivers during their journey. I think the community, play a great role in sharing that information.
Yeah, yeah. Anything you want to add to that, Serena?
No, just that I think that caregivers want their friends and family to just kind of show up for them, to come and visit, and not to cast them aside because they're busy with their loved ones. So even probably just a visit, just offering to maybe run to the grocery store. I think all those kind of things goes a long way with the caregiver's journey and what they need from the family and the community for support.
And from caregiver to the caregivers, I'm gonna ride on that one real hard. That is exactly it. Caregivers just want to. I remember this past Thanksgiving, because what happens a lot of times, especially when your loved one has Alzheimer's or any other form of dementia, what people tend to think is, especially those that are not closely involved, the thought process is, oh, well, they're not going to remember me anyway. And so they don't visit and they don't call. And, you know, there sometimes can seem to be no concern at all. And so over the holiday, you know, we didn't get the calls. I was here, you know, we didn't get the calls, we didn't get the visit. And I think that was the first time in a while that it impacted and affected me. And that entire weekend after, the only thing I kept saying was, the one thing that I don't ever want is to be forgotten. And I
Right.
think that that is the thing that happens a lot of times, not just with the person you're caring for. I don't want it for anybody who is living with Alzheimer's,
Right.
because, as I tend to tell my people, that's still your mother. That's still the only difference. I mean, there are moments, and a lot of times, sometimes it's very random, but there are moments when I'm just walking my mom to her room to get her in bed, and she'll turn around and literally, because when they get older, what I'm realizing is they shrink. So she's a little shorter than she was, but she'll lay her head sometimes right in the middle of my chest and say, I love you. They still have emotions, they have feelings, all of that. The only thing is, it's a brain disease. And so they can't articulate the same way, but they still love. They still want
Right.
to be loved. And so that is absolutely correct. Something as simple as a phone call saying, "Hey, don't worry about cooking today. I'm bringing the food over."
Right.
It's the simple stuff, Hey, I'll give you a break. You need 5. You need to go anywhere. Something simple, or even just a simple, "Hey, how are you?"
Right.
And then care enough to really want to know, because I think as a society we're so much into, hey, how you doing, and I'm fine, we keep going,
Right.
and we don't really, it's almost like we really don't want to know. It's just we're making small talk.
Right.
But stick around long enough to really be interested in knowing how the person is really doing.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
so, I think all of that is very important. So I just figured I'd throw that in there as a caregiver to let people know, like, that is absolutely correct. It's not all about money sometimes. Money is the answer to all things. That's what the Bible says. It answers all things. It might be the root of evil, all evil, depending on who hand is in. But
Right.
it answers all things. And so, you know, if you can help, however you do it, it's just important that, if you're not a caregiver, you want to know what you can do, that's some of it. And so let me ask this question as well. The partnership with Acts 2, I know that Acts 2, they do focus on African Americans. Their entire focus, of course, again, it's for everybody, but they focus on the African American community. And so with them and their contribution, as well as the Acts 2, the Acts 2, the project, um, what resources, when they come to this conference, what resources are they going to be bringing that will help to empower and strengthen, since their main focus is the African American community?
Well, they're going to be one of our main presenters. So they're going to be teaching on things such as relaxation and meditation, which is a huge helping point or relief, a source of stress relief for caregivers that in the African American community, we may not be familiar with meditation and we may not embrace self care, especially when we have a loved one at home who has Alzheimer's. But they're going to be talking about um, dementia one-on-one, going back to what we talked about as far as some education lapses where people don't understand when the mild symptoms begin, when they're moderate, where to go. And so those are just some of the presentations that the X2 program is going to be bringing, specifically tailored to the African American community.
Okay. Yep, that self-care is another big one. That's
Mhm.
another big one. That's one that sometimes I struggle with, but I'm learning daily. I take time. I have somebody coming over. I try to get somebody every weekend now,
Right.
because I realize the importance. If you're going to keep going and going and doing this, especially, like, I work a full time job. I have my mom full time, but I work a full time job.
Right.
And when I say full time, I mean, of course, I have people that are here with her while I'm working. Blessed thing, I do work from home when I'm not traveling. And so, but when you work full time, you have a small bit of life because that's what it ends up being. That self care is very important. Sometimes it is just being able to just sit down in a chair and do nothing but
Right.
think about you and you alone. And
Right.
so that's key. And you're right. Sometimes we just don't because we're so used to I gotta keep going. I gotta keep going. I
Right.
gotta make it
Oh
happen.
yeah.
I gotta make it
Oh
happen.
yeah.
And now with us in this sandwich generation where you have, you know, those that are caring that are not only caring for their parents in a lot of instances, but they also have small children, or teenagers, middle school, high school. And so, and that's kind of that, where I fit in, my baby was in middle school. And so, that's you're on two different spectrums here. And so that self-care does become very, very important. For those who may be new to caregiving or overwhelmed by the challenges, what resources or advice can this conference offer to help them to feel more confident and supported in their roles as caregivers?
Well, I think that Asia might agree that some of the vendors that are going to be at the conference will be available to talk to the new caregivers about office hours, resources, online resources like TMH Memory Care Clinic is a big help, especially for new caregivers that need to learn about those mild symptoms as they progress. The elder care services will be there, as well as X2 and Alzheimer's Project. And they all have different avenues of resources that they'll be able to share with new caregivers.
Okay.
Yeah. And I will also say that I think this will be a great opportunity for caregivers to meet other caregivers that they can kind of like build a community with and like
Mhm.
fall back on and hear their stories and experiences to, just have that safe space as well. So,
Okay. And let me take this opportunity right now while we're talking about it. For those that are listening, register for the conference. You can go on Eventbrite. If you go to Eventbrite and type in caregiving with heart support for hospice and Alzheimer's families, it will come up and you can go on and register. You can also go on my website at www.priscillajjohnlouis.com. If you go on there and go over to the caregiver, to the oh my gosh, just that quick. I just lost my whole train of thought. See there? That's how it comes and goes. But I don't have Alzheimer's.
No,
I
you
was
do
talking
not.
too fast. But if you go over there to the resource spot, go to the resource spot, go to events. You will find the flyer under the events. If you click on the flyer itself, it'll redirect you to the Eventbrite. So go to Eventbrite or go to my website and you can go ahead and register for the conference. Registration is going to be open until,
until the day of the conference.
all right, there you go. So you can go
Yeah.
on and register up to the day of the conference. You can register on the day of the conference. The most important thing is that you get to the conference and get the information. So if I'm a listener and I won't be able to attend the conference, I want to be there, but I can't be there. How can those who can't get there, how can they still access the resources and continue their caregiving education through the organizations that are involved?
Well, I know that we're going to follow up with presentations with our organizations in the community as well, sharing our programs and services. As far as like the conference, I'm not sure if there will be like a live or thing for
If
Zoom
they
or
can't
anything.
come and they just want the resources, they can
Okay.
reach out to you all
Yeah,
or
yeah, they can reach out to all the organizations and yeah, reach out to
okay.
us and we'll be happy to share.
Okay.
I'm
So
sorry, I'm just
if you
fumbling
can't,
tonight.
no, it's okay. If you cannot get to the conference, but you say, hey, I could really use this information, then please reach out to Serena or Asia. They can be reached by phone at 850-878-5310. That's 850-878-5310. Serena Collins or Asia Griffin. Contact them and they'll be able to provide the information for you for, of course, Big Bend Hospice, but they'll also have the information for Acts 2 as well as the Alzheimer's Project. And ironically enough, all of those agencies are located on my website as well. You go on the website, click on the link, it'll take you to all of them. And so we want you to be able to get that information. And so, ladies, I'm going to ask this question as well. What message would you individually, well, I'll come to both of you, but what message would you all like to share with caregivers who may be feeling overwhelmed or are wondering how they can find hope and strength on their caregiver journey? You all are around, um, I'm assuming you all actually see families, you meet with families, you interact with families. And so you see what's going on and how these families are impacted. If you all can give any message right now before we close to any caregiver who's like, you know what, I don't know if I can do this much longer.
One thing I would want to share with caregivers who are feeling like they are at the end of their rope, I just want them to know that they should not let their pride, or as you say, their need to keep information in house, as a lot of us were raised. I don't want them to let their pride keep them from reaching out. There are so many resources in town that are free and or affordable, especially if your loved one is already on Medicare or Medicaid. So I just don't want anybody to miss out on the resources because they are ashamed to ask for help or too proud to ask for help.
Yes, same.
Wonderful.
Just I would say just take advantage of the resources that are out there, and if you don't know, someone knows. So yeah.
Absolutely. And so we want to share it with you again. Big Bend Hospice Acts 2 and the Alzheimer's Project are presenting Caregiver with Heart support for hospice and Alzheimer's families. That's going to be Saturday, March 22nd, 2025, starting at 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Get there a little early. If you get there at 8:30, registration can be on site as well. And they're going to have a little continental breakfast for you. It's going to be located at the Old West Florida Enrichment Center, 2344 Lake Bradford Road in Tallahassee, Florida. This registration is absolutely free. It costs you absolutely nothing. And you can bring your loved one that you care for and your children. If you have children, they will have child care services available. The only thing they ask is that you please notify them through registration in advance if you're planning to bring either your loved one that you care for or your children so that they can make the proper accommodations. Again, go to Eventbrite, type in Caring with Heart Caregivers Conference support for hospice and Alzheimer's families. You'll find the registration there, or you can go to my website at www.priscillajjohnlouis.com. Go over to the resource spot under events, and you will find it right there. Ladies, thank you so very much for this opportunity to talk about the conference. We're looking forward to the conference. I will be there. We're hoping that some others, we're shooting it out there. We're going to get the information out. If you are listening to this podcast and you can get there, come, be there, come. And as she stated a few moments ago, there's going to be other caregivers there. There's nothing like having somebody else that knows what you're talking. It's one thing to talk to somebody and they're like, yeah, I feel you. But it's something totally different when you can talk to somebody who's on that same journey, who really, really can feel you and can, you all can help to strengthen each other. You all can help, as the Bible says, iron sharpens iron. And so I'm going to take it a little bit further. Strength giving strength, right?
Right.
Somebody, you might be down today and I'm up. And so I can strengthen you and vice versa. And that's what this is all about. I love the work that Big Bend Hospice is doing, that you all are doing, as well as the other two organizations that are partnering with you all. So I do hope and pray and look for great success from the event. And yeah, thank you all so much for an amazing, amazing conversation on the night. All right.
Thank
Thank you so much
you.
for
Thank you
Thank
for
you
joining.
for
having
having
us.
us.